Hi there. My name's Rosalind. I was sick, fever burning, barely standing, when my own sister kicked me out of the house. My daughter was locked inside. My parents? They took her side. They said I was dramatic, that I needed space. But behind closed doors, they stole more than that. They stripped my name off the mortgage, spread lies in the neighborhood, even tried to stop me from taking my child to the ER. And when I finally cut off the money, the water, the power, that's when they started screaming. It started with a shiver I couldn't shake, the kind that settles deep in your bones and whispers that something worse is coming. I'd pushed through work that day, half asleep, aching and foggy-headed, telling myself that if I just got home, I could finally rest. Home. What a joke that word had become. The moment I stepped through the door, the smell of lavender candles and the sight of pastel baby gear slapped me in the face. Diaper bags, yoga balls, maternity pillows. Darlene's kingdom now stretched from the kitchen to the living room. My spot on the couch was buried under her robes and unopened Amazon boxes. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My throat was raw from coughing and my head pounded like a broken metronome. Lorraine, my mother, though she rarely felt like one, looked up from her magazine. "Oh, good, you're back," she said casually, like I hadn't just spent the whole day pretending not to collapse at my desk. "Darlene's been resting, so keep your voice down." "I'm not saying anything," I rasped, hanging my coat by the stairs. She glanced at me like I was something sticky on the bottom of her shoe. "You still look sick. You should sleep in the basement tonight. It's cooler down there. Better for fevers." I blinked at her, trying to find the part of that sentence that made any sense. "The basement? You're young. You'll bounce back," she added, waving her hand dismissively. Darlene didn't even look up from her phone. She was nestled in the recliner, one hand on her round belly like she was cradling a crown jewel. I swallowed everything I wanted to scream. Mina was already upstairs asleep. I had to stay quiet. For her. That night, I curled up on an old futon in the basement, wrapped in a scratchy blanket that smelled like mildew. I didn't sleep much. The chill crept into my skin, and I coughed until my ribs throbbed. The only warmth I had came from the thought that maybe, just maybe, tomorrow would be better. It wasn't. I'd barely opened my eyes when I heard Darlene stomping down the stairs. "Are you serious right now?" she shouted. "Do you not care that I'm pregnant? You're up here coughing like a diseased raccoon." I sat up slowly, head spinning. I stayed in the basement, like Mom asked. "You were still breathing through the vents," she barked. I was too stunned to respond. That's when Lorraine walked in holding a black trash bag. "Just go for a few days, Rosalind," she said calmly, like she was offering me tea. "Clear your head, let Darlene relax." "Mom, I'm sick." "You'll feel better in fresh air. You've always been dramatic when you're under the weather." Darlene planted herself in the hallway, blocking the stairs like some deranged bouncer. "Don't make this a scene, just go." I looked at her, then at Lorraine. My voice was a whisper. "Where's Mina?" "She's brushing her teeth," Lorraine replied without looking me in the eye. "She'll be fine." I hesitated. I had no idea what was real anymore. Still wearing my pajama pants and hoodie, I slipped into my shoes, grabbed the trash bag, and walked out the front door. The cold hit me immediately, sharp and cruel. I turned around to see if Mina was behind me. She wasn't. I rushed back to the door and yanked the handle. Locked. I pounded once, twice. "Mom, Mina's still inside." No answer. I ran to the window and cupped my hands around my eyes. Upstairs, the curtain moved. A small face peered out. Confused, sleepy. Her little hand pressed against the glass. "Mina, baby, it's okay," I said, trying to sound calm. "Tell Grandma to let Mommy in." I heard movement behind the door. Then a sliver opened. Lorraine's face appeared, stiff as stone. "We can't have chaos right now. She's fine. Go rest somewhere else." The door clicked shut before I could protest. I stood there, shaking, sick and alone on my own porch. My child was inside. I was outside. That night, I curled into the backseat of my car, parked right there in the driveway like a ghost haunting her own home. My coat barely covered my knees, and every breath came out like steam. My lungs burned. The world outside was silent, but the scream inside my chest refused to die. The porch light was still on. They left it glowing, probably to make the house look welcoming in case a neighbor passed by. A few did. I saw them glance over as they walked their dogs or drove home. No one stopped. Lorraine had already told them I was taking space. I called in sick to work, voice hoarse, trying to sound upbeat. "Just a little flu," I said, forcing a chuckle. "I'll be fine." I texted Lorraine once, just once. "Can I see Mina? Just for a minute?" No response. I hadn't moved much since dawn. The cold from the night had settled into my muscles, and even though the sky was a pale, clear blue now, it still felt like winter had taken root inside my bones. My phone buzzed on the passenger seat beside a granola bar I hadn't touched. It was from Lorraine. "We need to talk. Meet me at the gas station on Main at 11. No punctuation. Just that flat, transactional tone she used whenever she wanted something. Part of me wanted to ignore it. But another part, the part that still stupidly clung to hope, wondered if maybe, just maybe, this was her trying to make things right. Maybe she'd let me see Mina. By the time I got there, she was already waiting by the air pump in her navy coat, standing like she didn't want to be recognized. That alone should have tipped me off. I parked, stepped out, my throat still sore, my back stiff from sleeping curled in my car. "Is everything okay?" I asked. She barely looked up. "I talked to Darlene. She's still shaken." I waited. "She's pregnant, Rosalind. You can't expect her to deal with stress like this." She glanced at me, her voice cooling. "But I was thinking, you still make more than her, right?" I blinked. "What?" "She's not working. You're still getting that accountant's salary." "Lorraine, Mom, I'm not even in the house." She gave a soft sigh like she was the one burdened. "It's not about where you're staying. It's about responsibility, family." That word, family, like she hadn't locked me out 2 nights ago and pretended her granddaughter's cries didn't exist. "You're asking me to send money?" I asked, stunned. Her lips curled slightly, the way they always did when she was about to say something that sounded noble, but was anything but. "Think of it as maintaining stability. For Darlene. For Mina." I took a step back. "You didn't even let me say goodnight to my daughter." "Rosalind," she said sharply, "don't be selfish. You're making things harder than they have to be." She walked off like that was the end of it. Just another errand done. Later that afternoon, I stopped by the neighborhood drugstore, not even sure why. I wandered the aisles like a ghost until I picked up a small, spiral-bound notebook and a cheap pen. I needed to write, not for revenge, not for court, just to keep track. Because lately I was starting to believe their version of things more than my own. I needed proof that I wasn't crazy. As I stood in line, I overheard 2 women talking near the pharmacy window. "I heard she got fired. Can't hold a job." Poor Lorraine, taking care of everything while Rosalind just spirals. I didn't turn around, didn't flinch. I just paid and walked out into the wind. By the time I got back to the car, my hands were trembling, not from the cold, but from something deeper. Shame, maybe? Or fury? I opened the notebook and wrote the first entry. Day 3. Locked out. Told I'm making things up. Asked to send money. Rumors I lost my job. I closed the cover slowly. My name was being dragged through the mud, and I hadn't even opened my mouth. I thought about when I was 16. Darlene had just failed her driving test for the 2nd time. Our parents still gave her a brand new phone for trying hard. I cleaned the dishes that night while she live-streamed with her friends. No one even said thank you. Nothing had changed. That evening, a coworker at the firm texted, "Everything okay? You've looked drained lately." I stared at the screen. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I almost told her about the porch, about Mina, about Lorraine's little public relations campaign. Instead, I typed, "Just life." That was enough. I didn't owe anyone the whole story, not yet. Later that night, I started browsing apartment listings near Mina's school. Nothing fancy, just clean and quiet. I bookmarked a few. A storm was on the forecast for next week, and I wasn't sure if my car could take another frozen night. But I could. Somehow. The morning after I sent in those apartment applications, the silence came back louder than ever. No missed calls. No, "How are you?" Not even a photo of Mina from Lorraine like she used to send when she wanted to bait me into playing along. Just absence. clean and sharp. I stared at my phone long enough for the screen to dim, then darken completely. There was nothing to reply to anyway. I could have sent another text, but silence, I was learning, was not a pause. It was a message. Later that afternoon, I drove past the old street. Not to see them, just to be near it. My fingers gripped the wheel tighter as I turned the corner, where the same red pickup sat parked outside the house. Dad's, still unmoved. I used to think of him as the quiet one, the peacemaker. He wasn't cruel like Lorraine or venomous like Darlene. He just didn't engage. But that was never neutrality. That was consent with a softer coat. Growing up, anytime Darlene broke a vase or skipped school, he'd sigh and mutter something about not rocking the boat. Lorraine would twist the story into a noble sacrifice, and Virgil? He'd nod. Sometimes he'd walk away. I mistook that for kindness, but the absence of harm isn't the same as love. He let her run everything. His silence was armor, for himself, not for us. That realization cracked something in me. Not a break, just a shift, like bones realigning after years of bad posture. I had brought a small box with me, Mina's old toys she no longer played with. I thought maybe if I left them by the porch, it would show I wasn't trying to escalate anything. Just a gesture. Something soft. I stepped out, glanced around. No one was outside. The wind was dry, biting against my skin. I placed the box on the steps, about to turn back to the car, when I heard Lorraine's voice through the kitchen window. She was on the phone, loud enough to carry through the thin pain, too distracted to notice I was feet away. No, Darlene was always the one with potential, she said flatly. Rosalind was, I don't know, what's the word, an accident. She laughed, a short dismissive sound. She's lucky we even let her stay as long as we did. I didn't move. My feet were locked in place. Not from surprise, not anymore. It was the confirmation, the kind that cuts deeper than the original wound. No tears, not then, just a kind of internal freezing that made my fingers burn. I walked back to the car, leaving the box right where it was. I couldn't bring myself to take it. I didn't want anything that belonged there touching me anymore. Back inside the car, I stared at the passenger seat. Mina had drawn something the day before. Her new house, she'd said proudly. It was a crooked box with 2 stick figures, one big, one little. That was it. No porch, no yard, no dog, just us. That night, I didn't wait for signs or apologies. I opened my laptop and applied for 3 more apartments, farther out but closer to Mina's school. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't trying to fix anything. I wasn't trying to be understood. I was just choosing myself. It was never just what they did. It was what they allowed to happen in silence. The first bill I canceled wasn't electric or water. It was the mortgage. It came through as a soft ping on my phone, a reminder from the bank that my auto payment was scheduled in 3 days. I stared at it for a few seconds, thumb hovering over the screen. Then I opened the app, navigated to the payment section, and hit cancel. I removed my account from the autopay settings and closed the app. A sharp calm settled in my chest. No fear, no regret. I typed a short message and sent it to Lorraine's phone. You wanted me out. Now the finances follow. I didn't wait for a reply. The next 2 days passed in quiet. Mina and I were settling into the little apartment I'd rented. It wasn't fancy. Just 1 bedroom, beige carpet, and a drafty window that whistled every time the wind picked up. But it was ours. The rent wasn't cheap, but for once I didn't have to justify every dollar. Then the real chaos began. Late Friday night, my phone buzzed. The screen lit up with Darlene's name. I let it go to voicemail. 5 seconds later, another call. Then another. Then Lorraine. I muted them all. But the 6th time, curiosity won. I picked up, voice flat. What? Darlene's voice cracked like a whip. You shut off the power? I'm pregnant, Rosalind. What the hell is wrong with you? I didn't flinch. I stopped paying for what I no longer live in. You'll need to cover your own utilities now. You're trying to kill me and my baby. I almost laughed. I kept the lights on for 2 weeks after being thrown out. You chose this. Click. That night, the voicemails rolled in like a storm surge. Lorraine sobbing, trying to sound wounded. Rosie, please. It's not right to do this to your sister. Think of the baby. You've always been stronger than her. Be the bigger person. Funny how my strength only mattered when it benefited them. She never said she was sorry. Not once. The next morning, I woke up to silence. No missed calls, no texts, no new messages. Just the low hum of the space heater in my room, and Mina humming to herself while drawing at the kitchen table. She'd started making to-do lists for our future home. 1, pink curtains 2, big bathtub 3, snack drawer that's only for me and Mom. That Saturday, we walked to the grocery store. It was cold, but she insisted on wearing her little dinosaur hoodie. We stopped for hot cocoa at a corner cafe and split a blueberry muffin. She didn't ask about Grandma or Aunt Darlene, and I didn't bring them up. As we headed home, I realized something had shifted. I wasn't angry anymore. Not actively. I was tired, but in a clean, quiet way, like the body finally resting after carrying too much. That night, as I sorted mail and receipts, a message popped up on my phone. Darlene, you'll regret this. That was it. No greeting, no signature, no attempt at softness. I stared at it, then took a screenshot and uploaded it to a folder titled Documentation Family. I'd already started tracking things, just in case. On Monday, during my lunch break, I visited a small law firm near downtown. The consultation was free, and I didn't need much, just someone to tell me what my rights were and what to expect if Darlene escalated. The lawyer was sharp and kind. She didn't pity me. She listened, asked questions, and gave me options. When I stepped back out into the wind, I zipped up my coat and exhaled. I wasn't afraid of the next storm. I'd walked through it barefoot once. This time, I carried my own umbrella. There are moments in life when silence is strategy, but then come the moments when silence is surrender, and I was done surrendering. It started with an envelope. Ordinary, except the seal had been torn and resealed with clear tape. A forwarded bank statement, addressed to my new apartment, clearly tampered with. I sat at my desk at work, staring at it for a full minute before pulling up the camera footage. I'd installed a small security cam near my mailbox when I moved in, just in case, just like the lawyer had advised. The footage loaded, blurry at first. But then, there she was, Darlene, clear as day, using a key to open my mailbox. Her hoodie was pulled low, but I knew that posture, that smug little head tilt she always gave herself when she thought no one was watching. I exhaled slowly, paused the video, and saved the clip in the legal folder I'd created on my desktop. By lunch, I'd drafted the email. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't curse. I just told the truth, line by line. Attached were screenshots, flirty messages between Darlene and a man named Caleb, dating back 6 months. One text in particular, I wish I could say it's yours, but I honestly don't know anymore. Another, we should have been more careful. Lorraine is going to kill me if she finds out. I also attached the voice memo, an accidental recording from weeks ago, when Lorraine didn't realize her call with me was still connected. Her voice was faint, but clear enough. I don't even know who the father is, but if she plays it right, we might still get some help. The recipients of the email, Lorraine, Virgil, Darlene's ex-husband's lawyer, and our cousin Mayra, who always had a foot in both camps and a big mouth. Subject line, you wanted truth. No greetings, no explanation. I clicked send. By 3 p.m., the hurricane landed. Darlene showed up in the parking lot of my office like a scene out of a reality show. Hair a mess, eyes wild. She screamed across the lot, hands flailing like she was auditioning for a part in some cheap drama. You think you're so righteous? You're a bitter, lonely hag. You'll die alone and still blame me for it. People stopped to watch. My manager peeked through the window blinds. I didn't go outside. I called security and calmly described the woman outside as a domestic issue. I told them I was concerned for my safety and that she was not to be let into the building under any circumstance. Later that evening, I played back the voicemails. Lorraine's voice, weepy and manipulative. You didn't have to take it this far. Family keeps things in the family. Family, that word again. Weaponized, twisted, thrown like a rope I was expected to tie around my own neck. I saved the voicemails too. The next morning, I filed a formal complaint with the post office about mail theft. The clerk gave me a pamphlet and told me to follow up with the local police station. Then I headed to the courthouse. A free legal clinic was hosting a drop-in day for civil issues. A paralegal walked me through paperwork for a cease and desist. "Would you like to press charges?" she asked gently. "Not yet," I said, "but I want this on record." She nodded. Smart move. When I stepped out of the courthouse, my shoes clicked loud on the concrete. I walked taller, head higher. I wasn't the whisper in the hallway anymore. I was the alarm. That night, Mina came home with a crumpled piece of construction paper. "Look, Mommy!" It was a drawing of a superhero. Purple cape, black boots, flames in the background. She'd scribbled my name, well, her version of it, across the top in bright pink crayon. "Is this me?" I asked, trying not to laugh. She nodded with a grin. "You're the strongest." I didn't correct her. I didn't say I wasn't a hero. I just hugged her and whispered, "Close enough." 3 days had passed since I filed the cease and desist. I hadn't heard a word back from Darlene or Lorraine. I knew better than to think that meant peace. It just meant the wind had shifted, and storms are always quiet before they rip everything apart. I was sipping coffee in my apartment, half reading a report for work, when the first blow landed. I got tagged in a Facebook post. The caption screamed in all caps, "Some people pretend to be victims after abandoning their own family." I was 8 months pregnant and homeless because of her. A photo of Darlene crying, belly pushed forward like a stage prop. The lighting dramatic, like she was auditioning for sympathy. The comments came fast. "She did what? Disgusting. Who does that to their pregnant sister? You're stronger than me, girl. Keep your head up." And the worst of all, Lorraine, chiming in like it was Sunday brunch gossip. "Sometimes daughters forget where they came from." I wasn't shocked, not anymore. But it still stung, like an old burn being scratched open. I didn't reply. Not yet. I screenshotted every word and saved it. I was going to need it. That afternoon, I picked up Mina from school like usual. She came out of the building slower than usual, her little backpack dragging behind her. "Hey, baby, you okay?" She didn't answer, just climbed into the car and fastened her seatbelt. It wasn't until we got home that she burst into tears. "She came to school," she sobbed. "She said if you don't stop being mean, they're going to come and take me away." Who said that? I already knew, but I asked anyway. "Auntie Darlene. She was by the fence. Miss Ray saw her and told her to leave." I called the school immediately. Miss Ray confirmed everything. Darlene had shown up unannounced at dismissal and tried to speak to Mina, even after being asked to leave the premises. That night, I didn't sleep. I called my lawyer first thing the next morning. "We're filing for a protective order," I said flatly. "She came after my daughter. That's the line." "Understood," she replied, not missing a beat. "Gather every piece of communication. I'll draft the emergency filing today." I emailed the school for a written statement, saved the audio of Mina crying, her voice shaking as she described what Darlene had said. I added screenshots from the Facebook post, Lorraine's comment included. This wasn't family drama anymore. This was harassment. Later that night, after Mina had gone to bed, I logged on to Facebook. My hand shook slightly, not from fear, but because I knew that this was it. The moment I stopped playing defense, I typed slowly, deliberately. "I don't use this platform to argue, but I will use it to protect my daughter. Any future lies, threats, or attempts to intimidate me or my child will be handled through legal means. This is not a threat, it's a boundary. No hashtags, no dramatics, no names, just facts." I hit post. My inbox filled within the hour. Messages from high school friends, coworkers, distant cousins. Honestly, I always suspected something was off with Darlene. "I've seen how your mom talks about you. It's not okay. Good for you for standing up." Support I never asked for, but for the first time I didn't reject it. I let it in. The next day I took Mina to school myself, walked her in, made eye contact with every adult in that building so they'd know, this child is protected. This mother is not afraid. Back home, I opened the email from my lawyer. The subject line read, "Protective order filing draft attached." I didn't open it yet. I just stared at the subject for a while, not because I was unsure, but because I was proud. Because when they tried to paint me as unstable, ungrateful, unworthy, What they didn't count on was that I was watching, documenting, building my case while they built their lies. They were loud, but I was thorough. And this time, I wasn't backing down. It was a Thursday when the envelope arrived. I'd just gotten back from picking Mina up from school. She was humming some Disney song and kicking her shoes off at the door when I noticed the thick white packet tucked among the junk mail on the counter. My name in small impersonal print. No return address. I opened it slowly. Legal papers. I recognized the format instantly. Property title transfer confirmation. I flipped through the pages, reading in disbelief. The house. The one I had spent years contributing to. Mortgage payments, upkeep, repairs while everyone else made excuses. It had been signed over. To Darlene. No notice, no discussion, just done. Stapled to the back was a typed note from Lorraine. She's having a baby. She needs stability. It's not personal. Not personal? I stared at the wall for a long time. Mina had turned the TV on and was watching cartoons. I couldn't even focus on the sound. My ears were ringing. I wasn't just erased. I was replaced. I closed the envelope and placed it gently in the drawer under the sink, like I didn't want to give it the dignity of my rage. That night, I set my alarm for early morning. I didn't sleep. I didn't cry. Instead, I made a list. Things I needed to finish, finalize, shut down. I needed control of something, even if it was just my to-do list. But the universe had other plans. It was around 2:30 a.m. when I heard a sharp gasp from Mina's room. Then a cry. I ran in. She was curled in a ball, clutching her stomach, her forehead damp with sweat. "It hurts, Mommy," she sobbed. "It really hurts." I threw on a jacket over my pajamas, grabbed my keys and wallet, and scooped her into my arms. We made it to the front door, and that's when I saw her. Darlene, standing at the base of the stairs, arms folded like she belonged there. Her belly looked bigger than ever under her hoodie. "You're not taking her anywhere until we talk," she said. I blinked. "What?" "You heard me," she snapped. "You've been spreading lies and now you think you can just run away with her? She's in pain. Move." I said we need to talk. I didn't let her finish. I stepped forward, shielding Mina in my arms, and shoved Darlene aside with my shoulder. She stumbled back, caught herself on the railing. "Don't you touch me!" she shrieked. "Then don't block a mother trying to get her child to the hospital," I shot back. Mina whimpered against my chest. I could feel her shaking. A neighbor opened their window across the lot. Someone called out, "Everything okay?" "No," I answered, breathless. "Call the police." And then I was moving, running, unlocking the car, settling Mina in the back seat, heart thudding so hard it felt like my ribs were about to snap. Red and blue lights arrived minutes later, washing over the complex like a warning flare. Darlene was yelling something about being assaulted. I didn't respond. I just handed the officer my ID and pointed at Mina, who was now pale and quiet in the back seat. "She needs help," I said. "That's all that matters." One officer took Darlene aside. Another waved me forward. "Follow the ambulance," he said. We arrived at the hospital just before 4 a.m. appendicitis, emergency surgery. The doctor said if we'd waited another hour, it could have ruptured. I sat beside her hospital bed as machines beeped and monitors blinked. She was asleep, finally calm, her tiny hand wrapped around two of my fingers. Later that night, after the surgeon checked in and the nurse changed her IV, one of them lingered at the door. "She asked about her aunt," the nurse said gently. "She wanted to know if she was coming back." I didn't flinch. "No," I said. "Not anymore." The nurse nodded slowly and left us alone. I leaned back in the chair, exhausted. But more than that, done. They'd taken the house. They'd lied, manipulated, twisted my every move. And now they'd tried to stand between me and my child's health? That wasn't just betrayal. That was dangerous. Whatever came next, they could spin their stories and play victim all they wanted. But this time, I had police reports, hospital records, and a child's trust in her mother that no one, no paper, no signature, could take away. The first light of morning slipped through the blinds, casting faint stripes across the floor. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, its vibration low but insistent. I hesitated before reaching for it, still groggy. I wasn't expecting anything, certainly not from that app. It was the mortgage portal, The one I hadn't touched in over a year. The same portal that once kept me up at night, calculating balances, checking payment dates, rereading statements, second-guessing everything. Since the day I signed away my part of the house, washed my hands of that cold, joyless structure, I had left it behind. Or so I thought. Curious more than anything, I tapped the notification. The app opened slowly, like it knew what it was about to reveal. And there it was, in bold red. Final notice, foreclosure initiated. Past due balance, auction scheduled, legal action pending. I stared at it for a long moment. No panic, no guilt. Just stillness. Then, I pressed delete. Let them handle it. Let them sort through the wreckage of what they fought so hard to control. That house had never been a home. Not for me. Not for anyone who wasn't willing to bend and break to fit into its pristine mold. They had obsessed over appearances, over discipline, over power. And now, they could own the collapse too. I turned over and looked at Mina, still wrapped up in her blanket, her face soft in sleep. Her tiny chest rose and fell in that slow, steady rhythm only children have. She was everything the house had never been. Warm, alive, safe. She was home. Later that day, after dropping Mina off at daycare, I found myself reaching for the bananas on the counter. They were just ripe enough. I didn't want banana bread. I wasn't even hungry. But I needed the motion, the routine, peel, mash, mix, the way the batter came together slowly with each stir. The warmth that spread through the apartment as it baked. It felt good to create something that wasn't for survival or appearance, but for comfort, for calm. When the timer went off, I didn't even eat a slice. I just stood there, breathing in the scent of cinnamon and vanilla and toasted sugar. My apartment smelled like life. Not the museum silence of the house I grew up in, with its designer furniture and rules about coasters, but real life. Imperfect and alive. Then the phone rang again, a number I didn't recognize. Out of state. I paused, thumb hovering over the screen. Something in me knew. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later the transcript began to load, but I didn't wait. I played the message. Her voice hit me like a brick. "Rosie, it's me, it's Darlene." She was crying. Not the performative kind I remembered from childhood tantrums or teen drama. This was real, raw. "I'm at the hospital. They said it's early, but it's happening. I can't reach Virgil, and Mom's not answering. I didn't know who else to call." She took a breath, shaky and shallow. "I know I don't deserve it, but I'm scared, Rosie. I don't know what to do. I need someone, please." There was a time when that would have shattered me, when her voice, full of fear, would have pulled me right back in, would have made me forget the way she gaslit me, betrayed me, turned the family against me, how she made my pain a punchline. But that time had passed. I pressed delete. Not out of revenge, not out of anger, just necessity. There was no victory in it, no satisfaction, just space, silence, and for the first time in a long time, a kind of peace. The next morning, I had an appointment at the hospital, unrelated to Darlene. I wasn't there to check on her or offer support. I went to the administration desk to request a permanent update to my family contact records. I had already taken my name off all emergency contact lists months ago, but this time, I wanted written confirmation. I wasn't going to be summoned back into the chaos through some clerical oversight. The receptionist looked up from her computer and asked, "Would you like to designate a new next of kin for Miss Darlene R.?" I met her gaze without flinching. "No. And if she lists me again, I will treat it as a violation of my personal and legal boundaries." She blinked, then nodded slowly. "Understood, ma'am." Outside, the wind had picked up, tugging at the hem of my coat. I exhaled as I walked to the car, the cold air sharp but clean. I picked up Mina from daycare a little early, just because. She ran out with a crown made of glittered construction paper and a popsicle stick glued to the front. "Mommy!" she shouted, grinning. "I'm a sparkle queen!" I scooped her up. "That's the most powerful kind. Can we make cookies tonight?" "Absolutely." On the way home, she got quiet for a while, her fingers tracing the window. Then softly, "Is Aunt Darlene gonna die?" The question caught me off guard. My hands tightened on the wheel. I didn't pull over, though I wanted to. She's at the hospital, I said carefully. She'll be taken care of. Just not by us. Mina nodded once. Okay. That night, we made chocolate chip cookies. Burned the first tray because we were dancing too much. I wore a dish towel cape, and she wore my sweatshirt like a gown. Super Mama! She shouted between giggles. I couldn't remember the last time I laughed like that. After her bath, I tucked her in. She looked up at me, eyes half closed, and whispered, I'm glad it's just us now. My heart twisted, but in a way that felt honest. Me too, baby, I said, brushing hair from her forehead. Later, I lay in bed, wide awake but calm. No missed calls, no guilt-tripping messages, no news from Lorraine, just stillness. And in that quiet, something I hadn't felt in years bloomed inside me. Not pride, not triumph, just space, just breath, freedom. The mail came late that day. Mina was already fast asleep, her face soft in the glow of her nightlight, a smudge of chocolate still clinging to her cheek from the cupcake she'd begged to eat before dinner. I had wiped her hands, combed her hair back, read her favorite book twice, but somehow that little streak of frosting had survived. It made me smile. Outside, the air was cooler than usual for Austin, and the sidewalk still held on to the day's heat. I walked barefoot to the mailbox, expecting the usual, flyers, utility bills, maybe a delayed Amazon envelope I forgot I ordered. I shuffled through the stack without much interest, ready to toss most of it straight into recycling. Then I saw it. An off-white envelope, slightly bent at the edges like it had traveled through several hands before landing in mine. My name was written across the front, unevenly in familiar handwriting, slanted, hesitant. Virgil. I stood in the doorway for a long while, the envelope in one hand, mail in the other, unsure what to feel. I didn't open it right away. I didn't even go straight to the couch. I walked into the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and stood at the sink for a few moments, listening to the quiet hum of the fridge. I wiped down the counter even though it was already clean, rearranged the fruit bowl, adjusted a crooked magnet on the refrigerator, all stalling, all small rituals to brace for something bigger. Finally, I sat down and opened it. The letter wasn't long, barely half a page. The paper was plain, no return address, just folded neatly like it had taken him days to get it right. I don't know if you'll ever read this, he began. He said he was living in a small one-bedroom now. Not much space, but quiet. His words made it sound like a confession, not a complaint. He wrote about Lorraine, how she hadn't spoken to him since the foreclosure, how the silence between them had grown like mold in a forgotten corner. He wrote that he thought staying quiet during all those years was the same as keeping the peace. But I see now, he wrote, that silence was the loudest betrayal of all. I waited for a wave of something, tears, anger, even pity, but none came. Not because I didn't feel. I felt everything. But what settled in was a clear, quiet kind of knowing, the kind that doesn't need to be spoken aloud. I folded the letter carefully and tucked it away in the back of my desk drawer, right behind old bank receipts and Mina's first attempts at drawing people. Stick figures with giant heads and wobbly smiles. The letter didn't need a spotlight or a frame. It just needed a place to rest, like truth. Late, but here. That Saturday, the weather finally shifted. After a week of gray skies and sluggish drizzle, the sun pushed through. I packed a small picnic, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches cut diagonally the way Mina liked, some apple slices, 2 juice boxes, and a cookie wrapped in foil. We walked to the park hand in hand, not saying much. The light felt softer, the breeze kinder. Mina laid the blanket down herself. I sat with a book while she worked quietly in her sketchpad, tongue between her teeth, using colored pencils worn down to stubs. I didn't ask what she was drawing. I just let her be. When she was done, she passed the paper to me without a word. "This is us," she said, beaming. The drawing was simple. 2 stick figures, one tall with messy curls, one short with a big red heart on her shirt. "Just us," she added, as if to mark the boundaries of our world. "That's more than enough," I said, and meant it. Later that evening, my phone buzzed. Lorraine's number, again. No voicemail, no text. Just that tired pattern she liked to use. Just enough to stay on my mind, not enough to say anything real. I looked at the screen until it went dark. Then I went into my contacts and blocked the number. Not in anger. Not to make a statement, just because I didn't need the static anymore. I whispered to myself, almost without thinking, I forgive you, for me, not for you. It wasn't some grand healing moment. It was a release, like unclenching a fist I hadn't realized was tight. And then I opened the old family group chat, years of messages, fake cheerful greetings, happy Thanksgiving from us with matching outfits, passive-aggressive jabs disguised as just jokes. Photos I was cropped out of, invitations I never responded to, memories I didn't ask to keep. I pressed and held the thread, hit delete. It was like cutting a rope. The boat drifted off. No explosion, no collapse, just a quiet departure. Gone. But not mourned. Monday came with news I hadn't expected. My supervisor called me into a meeting, nothing serious, just a check-in, or so I thought. But then she smiled and said she was offering me a promotion. Senior financial analyst, a team of my own, more autonomy, a raise. I nodded, grateful, proud, but I didn't text anyone. That night, Mina and I baked cupcakes again. She insisted on cracking the eggs herself. I let her. Half the shells ended up in the garbage, the rest in the batter. We laughed so hard we forgot to set a timer. Frosting ended up on the wall. I left it there. After she fell asleep, cheeks sticky and content, I sat by the window with a blank journal on my lap. I held the pen for a moment, then wrote slowly. I am not who they said I was. I am who I became when I left. I didn't need applause, didn't need to be seen or praised or forgiven. I had something far better now. Peace. Before I let you go, let me leave you with this. We don't always get to choose the family we're born into, but we do get to choose the boundaries we set. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for your child is walk away from what hurts, even if it's tied to your last name. I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. And peace didn't come wrapped in apologies. It came when I stopped begging people to see my worth and started living like I knew it myself. So if you're out there holding your breath for someone else to do right by you, maybe it's time to start doing right by yourself. You're not selfish for protecting your peace. You're not wrong for choosing better. You're not weak for letting go. And if you're still in the storm, I see you. You're not alone. What about you? Have you ever been pushed so far that you had no choice but to let go? What would you do if your own family turned against you? Tell me in the comments. Drop a 1 if this story hit home for you, or share where you're watching from. And if this story didn't quite sit right with you, I want to hear that too. Your voice matters here. And hey, if you want more stories that speak truth, stir emotion, and remind us all how strong we really are, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. You never know. Next time, it might just be your story that helps someone else heal. Thanks for listening. I'm so glad you're here.